Hi, thanks for joining us. My name is Herde. I'm a marketing director here at Spiceworks, and glad you can join us here again. Thanks for joining the live stream, the IBM live stream today. We're excited to have some folks from IBM and ClearBlade with us to talk about mobility, talk about mobile solutions and some of the things that are going on in the social arena around being mobile. Obviously, that's a hot topic of the day. We've been talking a lot about it of late, so we're excited to have some great panelists with us today. As you can see from our backdrop, IBM is a key partner of Spiceworks in helping bring a great product to the Spice heads out there. They have been inside Spiceworks for a number of years, talking to us about ways that they can interact with Spice heads and IT pros. Certainly talking about with you all and having good conversations about IT. Before we really get started, I want to make sure that you're well aware that we're taking your questions. This is your time, and we want you to participate. So we'll plug into the screen in front of you, throw your question our way, and we'll check in with Elise Strickland at our social media desk. She's our chat correspondent, so to speak, and we'll see what questions we have from time to time. But now, let me introduce you to the folks with IBM that have joined us today. First, we have Malcolm Woods. Malcolm is a mobile software developer with ClearBlade. They're a key partner of IBM's in terms of delivering top-notch mobility solutions to the enterprise. Malcolm has extensive background in native Android development, as well as hybrid mobile app development. He also runs a blog centered around mobile development, and actually has a lot of experience with IBM's WorkLight product. So if you want to check out his blog, check out his feed, please ping us in the chat room, in the chat box, and we'll make sure to get that URL sent your way. So Malcolm, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, yes, I've been in the mobile space about 2.5 years now, which kind of seems like an eternity for such a young industry.
Sure.
But I connect with the developers. I know the challenges we face. I've created some pretty neat apps and I've broken a few too, so I understand the challenges we face.
Good. Well, that would be a great insight to share. We also have Ed Brill. Ed Brill is the Director of Mobile Enterprise Marketing. Ed Brill is the Director of Mobile Enterprise Marketing, with IBM, specifically focused around IBM's Mobile First initiative and the overall business of mobile that IBM brings to the table. Obviously, they have a comprehensive portfolio of solutions for enterprise mobility, and we'll be excited to hear about some of the details, some of the deeper dives into some things like that. Ed recently authored Opting In, Lessons in Social Business from a Fortune 500 Product Manager, and we've got a couple of copies to share, so awesome. Stick around for your hands for information on how to get your hands on one, and written by a green guy inside the community. So we've got all these guys set up as green guys, so we're excited to share. So Ed, why don't you introduce yourself to the Spice heads?
Thanks, Rich. I've been at IBM almost 20 years, mostly in the collaboration space. Before that, in IT. So I have a technical background. I was a sales engineer when I first joined IBM as well. Today, have been about 3 months into our Mobile First initiative, leading the marketing effort on that, and excited to talk to the Spice heads about what we've got to offer.
Okay, great. And finally, we have Paul Gillen here in the Spiceworks studio. Many of you out there might be familiar with Paul, and if you were here for the pre-show, he provided a lot of insight in terms of interacting with Spice heads, and I thought that was good information to share. Paul's latest book, Attack of the Customers, provides unique insight into the way customers are interacting with technology companies, and really out in the open, in plain view. And I think that's something that we all have to be aware of. We also have a couple of copies to share with you, so we'll give those out again, and Elise will tell us how we can get our hands on that. So Paul, why don't you introduce yourself again, please?
Thanks, Rich. I've been IBM Midsize Business green guy in Spiceworks for about 1.5 years, and had a terrific time doing that. But prior to my current fascination with social media, for about the last 7 years, I was 24 years in IT media. I was at Computer World for 15 years, editor-in-chief there for 5 years. So certainly have a background in this market, although I'm not a hands-on technical guy.
Got it. Great. Well, thanks to all of you for certainly taking the time today to join us. We know you've come from out of town to lovely Austin, Texas, so glad to have you here. And thanks to the IT pros out there for joining us. We know you're very busy, and excited to have you join us for an hour of good information sharing around mobility. As is the norm, we're going to kick it over to our chat correspondence desk set up. Elise Strickland from the Spiceworks team is monitoring the feed and is anxious to share some questions that hopefully you guys are starting to send her way. Why don't you please, Elise?
Thanks, Reg. Once again, my name is Elise Strickland. I'm in marketing here at Spiceworks, and I'm going to be manning, or womaning, as it were in this case, the chat desk. So here's how it works. All you need to do is type your questions in the window below the live stream window that you're watching, where it says social stream. Type your questions in. I'm here with my good friend and fellow Spice worker, Jeff Grutler. He's going to be taking a look at your questions, and we're going to shoot them over to Reg and the panelists, and they're going to be answering them real time and live. And as a special treat today, at the end of the broadcast, we're going to be giving away some cool prizes. We've got some I Heart Watson mugs. We've got some books. Ed Brill's Opting In, Lessons in Social Business from a Fortune 500 Product Manager, as well as Paul Gillen's book, Attack the Customers. We'll be giving those out to some lucky askers. That's the right word. So get your questions in, and we'll get to those later in the show. Over to you, Reg.
Great. Okay, thanks, Elise. Excited to get your questions, folks out there. So I'm going to kick it off, though, with some questions. First one being, when a lot of people think of IBM, they immediately default to thinking of Big Blue, right? Large enterprise needs. What is IBM doing, or what is IBM doing to stand out when it comes to small and mid-sized companies, of which are represented by a healthy part of the IT pros out there? Ed, please.
Yeah, I'd say there are three things, Reg, that we're really doing to help extend the reach of IBM's technologies to provide solutions to any size customer. The first is we've developed a pretty healthy ecosystem of business partner organizations, companies like ClearBlade that Malcolm is from, that can get engaged with an organization of really any size and scale the technology down or up as needed. The second is that we've really reoriented our culture at IBM to be much more social. So you'll find more IBMers on LinkedIn than any other company, lots of people participating in forums like Spiceworks and Twitter and Facebook, and you can really find IBMers anywhere. We're not
Spiceworks, yeah, absolutely.
We're not a faceless conglomerate anymore. We've got lots of people who want to talk to customers and want to engage with the market. And then the third would be that we've moved a lot of our technology to cloud delivery, so that it can be pay-as-you-go, don't have to worry about setting up the back end, racks of servers, stacks of software. We take care of all that plumbing, and customer can just take off and run.
Good. Okay.
And I can really attest to that. ClearBlade is a premier business partner for a long time with IBM, and they do have some free products and some open source products, so we do support that world. For example, I blog a lot about IBM WorkLight Studio.
Yeah.
It lets you integrate CentralTouch, jQuery, Dojo, and a lot of the open source technologies that we're used to. And it's also free, so you can check out my blog for more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we mentioned earlier, we definitely want to make sure that you can take a look at his blog. I've taken a look at it. There's a lot of great insights there. We'll post that URL for folks that are interested. Cool. All right. So a number of hot topics that IT pros and therefore are on the minds of marketers these days. I think you mentioned cloud earlier, virtualization, BYOD obviously is what this is about, and being mobile, even security. What is going to make, whether it's BYOD or what is IBM doing to make mobile stand apart from all those other things that are grabbing everybody's attention?
Well, I think it's what the market has made a little bit, in that mobile is a technology that your customers bring to you as an IT person, as opposed to virtualization or cloud or something like that. That's more of a strategy, a back-end decision. This business of mobile, or the second wave of mobile, is a environment where end users are bringing in their own technology, they're bringing their tablets and their handheld devices, and they expect a consistent experience. They want the same capabilities on that device, if not a better experience than they might have had on the desktop or in a browser world. So I think the reorientation to have a mobile strategy, a mobile lifecycle management solution, a mobile management approach within IT is about servicing the end customer or prospect, to help them with transactional activity, to help them with customer service, to help them with the whole life cycle of engaging with your organization.
Mobile is a nexus point for all the technologies you just mentioned, Reg. I mean, mobile really is dependent on a cloud infrastructure and on secure devices and on manageable devices. In addition to what Ed said, I mean, customers now come to you much more knowledgeable about your products thanks to the immediate access to information. But your people also can go into the market with much better knowledge about the customers. So mobility is speeding up the time to decision, because our sales reps no longer have to go back for a week and craft RFPs. They can actually get the information they need right on the spot. And this is making businesses move faster.
Okay.
And I can really attest to that. In the mobile space, you really have to be prepared. Don't go into it blindly, because your your feedback is almost instant with the reviews you can get with apps. I mean, if you don't test well or your user interface isn't working correctly, you really only get one chance to impress or disappoint a customer, because that feedback is almost instant, the comments.
And I really think that's important, Malcolm, what Malcolm just said, that the customer experience, you make a decision to use an app now based upon what other customers say. That's a dominant reason you make that decision. Those star ratings are embedded into the process, iTunes and Android Store. And that is so different from the way we've traditionally bought software. It's hard-coded. Customer experience is hard-coded into the decision, and that's a game changer too.
Do you think, sort of question on left field, do you think that IT pros are moving away from reviews from third parties? I mean, you came from Computer World, and there's lots of other great publishers out there, certainly. But when it comes to peer reviews and ratings, do you think that's given more credence these days?
I wouldn't say that independent expert reviews are any less important, but they certainly are part of a much larger ecosystem now, and there's lots of documentary evidence that people now trust the experiences of a large number of their peers more than they trust the opinions of a single expert.
In your book, you talk about showrooming, right? I'm standing in a retailer, and I'm on my mobile device, and I'm going to type in a search around this thing that I'm thinking about buying, and it's the reviews on Amazon or something like that that are going to come up as the things that I'm much more likely to trust than the guy standing in the showroom telling me what to buy. So I think it's really, really, reoriented the buyer.
Yeah, that's gotten so easy. You scan it, and it'll pop up.
A recent survey says that 60% of smartphone users have showroomed. And think of how that changes business. If you're Best Buy, where are you in 5 years when you essentially become Amazon's largest showroom? How does that change your business?
Yeah, and I know that I recently read they've done a lot of things to try to combat that, meaning they'll meet or beat those prices. So that's certainly some things that they're doing, hopefully helping a lot of IT pros out there in terms of finding the best deals, the best opportunities. Let me jump to another one that had come in earlier before we even started the stream. In terms of the top concerns for IT pros, this is big question. What are they thinking about when it comes to mobility or having solutions for mobility? What are those key things that jumped out? We talked a moment about security, but I'm guessing that's one of the biggest.
Yeah, I think security and management, probably they go hand in hand a little bit, and then, what's the mobile platform? So on the security management front, how are you going to support the whole range of devices the day they come out, or even some cases before they come out? How are you going to, provide a environment where, whether the user's coming in through a browser environment or a native app, that you can deliver a consistent experience? How to make sure that that app isn't opening up vulnerabilities inside your environment, it's thoroughly tested, and it's not, a sort of backdoor entry point. And then the platform itself is, not just, hey, we went out and hired an agency and they built this app this one time and we're done. It's a whole life cycle now. It's a whole, how am I going to think about the, the ongoing updates and the platform of apps and the consistency across apps. There's a lot of companies out there right now, you go through their apps in the App Store, they don't look like anything, like each other, because they went out and commissioned them one at a time instead of thinking about it as a overall ecosystem, what is our life cycle in the app world.
Does that would you also include, kind of the bringing, BYOD being part of the title of this live stream, how folks are coming in off the street, bringing those consumer devices in and putting them in, and we do it here at Spiceworks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it's more common now than not to find a BYOD policy in place, and IT organizations have had to chase that a little bit, and the market is very fragmented as a result. We at IBM have over 100,000 devices on our, in our network. That we, have a very large constituency of iPhones and iPads and Android devices and BlackBerries, and even now starting to have Windows Phone. And that's probably for a lot of IBMers, myself included, if I'm on the road like I am here today, my iPad's my office. So it's really, really important to have that kind of capability.
I think BYOD is an evolution of ownership, of control in the IT world. If you go way back to the 60s and mainframes, where you had the wizards who controlled the mainframes in the air-conditioned rooms, we have come so full cycle now through PCs and through PCs and through portable devices, and now BYOD, where and cloud, where the users now really are in the driver's seat, and they are deciding. I think it's interesting hanging out on Spiceworks and seeing that the Spiceworks community, for the most part, is resigned that BYOD is a reality, and they're going to support it, and they're going to be enthusiastic about it. How different that is from just a few years ago when IT was very much the traffic cop and the guys who said no.
One of the things that jumped out, and we've done this Unplugged series, Spiceworks Unplugged, throughout the U.S. and even over in the U.K. that jumps out is the question I was asking IT Pro is, how are they dealing with that BYOD? And a year and a half ago it was, if my CEO or president brings it in, then I kind of got to make it happen. And that's becoming less the excuse, is more as just everybody's bringing it in, we have to deal with it, it's the reality, as you said. So let's talk about the social impacts, because I think that's a key part, and obviously a key part of the discussion. And Spiceworks is a great example of a network or a vertical network that speaks social. What does that mean to the mobile business populace? What about being social and being obviously constantly available plays a big part in the mobility, maybe plans and platforms for IBM?
Yeah. I mean, I think mobility and social go hand in hand. It's why I'm really excited about having made the transition from our social business team into mobility, is to bring all that experience of all the mobile-enabled apps to where people are working out loud. They're living their life on that device, and they are making themselves available as a broadcast mechanism. There's lots of implications of individual branding and what does it mean by policy, but the platform itself has enabled that because the apps are so natively enabled with, I can just pass this over into a shared file by drag and drop, or some other single click action, single touch action.
Sure.
I can share instead of having this all be an island of information on my own hard drive, which was kind of the last model, right? So organizations really have to reorient to the fact that not only are people bringing their personal devices, but they're bringing the expectation of the capabilities they have in their personal world, the Twitters and Facebooks and the like, into the corporation, and how can they have similar tools that are secure, that are protected, that have some access control, and we do that. But we also have helped a lot of companies do that, because it's really important to have that 100% mobile, fully enabled. I can be out in the field talking to a customer and get immediate access to information and not have to go back to the office to get it.
Good.
Yeah, I can really.
Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say, I can really attest to that. Mobile is such a big part of our business. You're always plugged in. I mean, really, as a company, you get more bang for your buck if your employees are always plugged in, even in their off time, they're checking emails or doing some work. Really putting out there, hey, we're always plugged in, we're always working toward our cause. So I really agree with that.
I had a very poignant example of that this week. I'm from Boston, and I was leaving. My flight left Boston 20 minutes after the bombs went off.
Sure.
And so my lifeline, it so happened there was Wi-Fi on the plane, my lifeline to what was going on the ground was Twitter, because Twitter was the place that was giving me the latest information from the most eyes, including first-person accounts and photos from people who were actually on the scene. That was the best source of information about what was happening on the ground. And that really changes the way we absorb news. We learn about events, we share events now, rather than just sit back and absorb them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's participation. Okay, so I want to actually queue up, make sure that folks know that we're taking questions. We have, you guys all know Jeff Gretler, one of our zombie warriors, you might say, in the IT community. He wants to see those questions coming in, and he'll send them my way. I've also got some other questions, but I'm gonna kick one more to these guys, and then we'll jump to Elise as our chat correspondent. So let's talk about what's on the mobility horizon, right? We'll probably get into more of this later, but in terms of new products or the way we treat mobility as a function of doing business, there are some things that you gentlemen can talk to in terms of what you see coming soon.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be a little provocative. I think that we're evolving to a phase right now where we're going to get away from worrying about the device itself as the thing that encapsulates mobility, and abstract the layer up to worrying about the apps and the delivery and the infrastructure itself. 15 years ago, when the internet first commercialized, you saw websites that said optimized for Netscape 4.0, right, or IE or whatever.
Sure,
and that was like the really big worry in e-business, is like, am I delivering the right experience for my customer? We don't worry about that anymore. So I'd say in a few years, what is a mobile device will become less relevant, whether it's Google Glasses or a tablet interface or a handheld or a pocket, or
who knows
machine to machine even, right? Connected cars and technology like that. Yeah. So I think we're going to get away from the physical footprint and much more into what are the systems of interaction doing and how are they delivering value.
Okay. What is there some thoughts on what ClearBlade is doing? Or obviously you want to try to stay ahead of that curve. and plan and develop for those very eventualities.
Yeah, absolutely. Just extending on what you said, it's going to be less device dependent. So as a developer, we have to pay attention to what's going to be the next important thing, the user interface, how they interact with the apps. So that's going to be really important to get apps out faster and be more with a more hybrid approach. If you take a native code approach on each project and a new device comes out, hey, we're already kind of late. So I think the hybrid approach really attacks the device problem that we're going to face in the future. Hey, if the Google Glasses come out or 3D printer comes out, hey, how are we going to attack it? How are we going to provide an experience to the user where they can see what's going on and navigate it comfortably?
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think we're going to be using very different devices in 5 to 10 years. It's a kind of a clunky device we use right now, but what really interests me more is how we're going to interact with that device. To build on what Malcolm said, about a year and a half ago I was at a conference at MIT where the chief research scientist at Google was there, and he said that within 5 years translation technology will be good enough that you'll be able to have near real-time conversations with anybody in the world in their native language. Using a translation device, near real time. And somebody challenged him, said, 5 years? And he said, yeah, 5 years. Now think of what happens when we no longer have language barriers. When we can talk to people in their native language, that's going to be, and I don't know what device will make that happen. It may be something that we wear on our heads, but that will change everything. And these technologies, have so much potential to change so many things about the way we live and work.
Okay. Wow. That's interesting. Okay. Well, I definitely want to give an opportunity to the IT pros out there to ask questions of our great panel. So I'm gonna jump over to our chat correspondence desk and we'll see if Elise has some questions queued up for us. I believe you do, Elise.
I do. There's a ton of questions coming in from the social stream, so I'll just jump right in. The first one we've got from BCampFL, who wants to know what are some essential elements of a BYOD policy.
Okay.
You want to start with that?
Yeah, I want to start with that.
Okay.
So whenever you want to have bring your own device policy, it's important to have a mobile device management system, which allows you to do a lot of things. So I think the main thing about bring your own device is security. That's what everyone thinks about security.
Right.
And it's not really malware and viruses. It's really lost devices and stolen devices and leaked information.
Yeah.
So those are the biggest challenges we have. About 40% of employees today are using their own devices. So all the time they're losing devices. We're changing employees with devices. So we want to be able to, hey, lock that device if it's lost or even wipe it. So you want to start with a good mobile device management system like Tavali Endpoint Manager, which is very secure through IBM, and other competitors like AirWatch or Good Technologies, which allow you to lock the device, separate private and public data from the devices, actually push updates, push apps, and also let you even have your own enterprise app store. So you want to really separate what's going on in their personal lives with business, because the two interchanging, you could, really build a threat there with the device.
Gotcha. Okay, good. What else we have? Elise, we do?
All right, we've got a question from Scott Matilda 3, who wants to know how should a nonprofit with limited resources approach BYOD issues? Ooh. Suggestions?
Anyone want to jump on that one?
I think that's an interesting challenge. I mean, I think that it's probably a start small and grow later kind of an approach. Decide what's the most important aspect of BYOD that you're trying to handle. Like Malcolm was saying, is it that you're worried about security? Is it you're worried about data loss? Is it you're worried about keeping up with new technologies? One interesting approach, kind of back to my earlier comments for a nonprofit, is to go with a hosted approach or a cloud approach to BYOD, which we and other companies offer, so that it's pay-as-you-go and it's not investment in some big infrastructure to deploy.
Okay, makes sense.
I think education is critical too, because many people don't understand the power of their devices and the risks that they take when they take pictures, for example, of areas that are restricted or classified, or that may be customer locations that the customer doesn't want the outside world to see, and then they share those pictures on Instagram. The potential violations that could occur there. When they download data to their device, many people, I'm sure, who use mobile devices don't know where the data is. They think it's all in the cloud, but in fact it may be on their device. So teaching them how you turn on and off data downloads and how to know when data is sensitive data is stored on your device versus somewhere safe.
Okay.
Now just to extend on that, he talked about policy. You do have to have a strong policy. You can't just allow every phone. You can't allow jailbroken phones. You have to, you have to enforce strong passwords. So it's good to have some good policies written out and some guidelines for the bring your own device.
Do you think there's an extension of some of the same security provisions you have to have for any device, all desktops, all et cetera, in terms of protecting your own, ultimately, IP, right?
Yeah, the capability that we offer, the products in the space are not unique to mobile. I think it's actually one of our differentiators is that it expands from desktop to mobile as well. So one infrastructure can manage all of those devices.
And Ed, I wonder how you deal with the fact that people use their phones for personal information and for business information. You want to manage one, but not necessarily the other. How you deal with that from a technology perspective?
Right. I mean, there's ways to virtualize or separate the information. That's still evolving in the hardware, the operating systems itself. Some Android devices are really good at that. BlackBerry, the Z10 is completely separate on personal and business data. Our tools also can help manage, sort of that separation of data so that an app doesn't have the ability to copy data out of it. It runs in kind of its own sandbox or, image unto itself. So there's a lot of different ways. A lot of different vendors have tried to approach, that virtualization or compartmentalization of data. I don't think it's a perfect science yet, but I think that, we're really in the right direction.
Well, I was going to expand on that.
Okay, go ahead.
Please, go ahead.
I was going to say from a development standpoint, he's actually right. Some of those mobile development management systems will disable copy and paste. So if you're on a corporate app and you want to copy and paste some text, it's going to be disabled. You won't be able to do that. You won't be able to take a screenshot. So you'll disable those things that cause information to leak.
Yeah.
And from a development standpoint, it's really not that hard to set it up.
Yeah.
So with your application code, you would kind of copy that code and paste it between some tags, or in a container that will kind of manage the communication between apps and between the network. And with Savali Endpoint Manager, you could actually download an app from the market and then check in and enroll your device, which would then restrict and enforce those strict security policies.
Okay. Let me keep on that topic for a moment because we're talking about information security, and let's talk about between personal and company-owned or company-monitored devices. Should we let people upgrade devices on their own if it's going to be within the environment? What about apps? Do we have to lock down that type of thing, right? Who ultimately owns the data? A couple of questions in there.
Yeah. So we've been thinking about management security as two separate areas of discipline for the IT administrator, IT manager to really think about in the mobile space, that they should be thinking about the management of the device layer and then security at the app layer. So we have tools like AppScan that'll actually go through the app and determine, does this app have any ability to leak data? Does it have the ability to introduce a vulnerability to our back-end systems? And so those are two, sort of very different things that both have to be thought about in terms of a BYOD policy.
Okay.
But if you have those in place, then it shouldn't matter if the next, cool new device comes out tomorrow. You're ready for it.
Right.
Gotcha. That is, I think, one of the advantages of building a layer for native apps or hybrid apps, for example, that you're not dependent on the operating system. You're not dependent on your own IT staff to have to be ready the day the new app comes out. Let vendors like IBM do that work for you, and you can worry about just, what's the business capability.
I wonder, Malcolm, as a developer, you have so many different platforms now to build for, at least 4 or 5 major platforms. Where would you like to see the industry go in terms of some agreement on standards for platforms?
Well, that's a good question. Like I said, I have a background in native Android development, so I did Android from 2.0 all the way to 3, all the way to 4, so I've seen this platform change. Now I'm taking more of a hybrid approach. We can build it once and deploy it to all these different environments. So I think that's the approach I think things are going to go in the future, more hybrid approach. No matter what device you're on, it looks the same. You want the same look and feel.
Same experience.
Yes, you want the same experience. And then you talked about securing the apps. Those mobile device management consoles and platforms actually know when devices are changed. So I can pull up on the web console that, hey, it upgraded his phone to the next version, and it'll show me analytics of where the holes might be or where security breaches might be. So I think the mobile development management systems are ready for that problem.
Okay. Well, let's jump again to Elise. I'm sure there are lots of questions out there, and I want to make sure that we're not occupying that space. So, Elise?
Thanks, Rich. Yeah, there's quite a few questions still here. So around new technologies, we've got some questions that are IBM specific. So NYC IT guy would like to know a little bit more about MDM, mobile device management, obviously solutions from IBM. What are some of the, what's out there? What's coming?
Well, I mean, our main product in mobile device management today is called Endpoint Manager, and it's got a flavor for mobile devices and a flavor for desktops, as we kind of were discussing earlier.
Yeah.
But there are other products in that management portfolio, and again, also services too. So we can do it as either a premises product delivery that a company can run and manage themselves, or they can have IBM run it for them, or partners can do sort of all of the same. We're going to continue to evolve that product. It just in its last release added FIPS 140 certification so that it can run in federal U.S. government environments, so that it's past that level of security. That release I think is version 9 that just was announced in March. So it's a product that we continue to evolve and have a lot of hands-on experience.
Okay. And I think we've got some more, Elise. Let's just keep going through those. If we can get them.
Here's another IBM specific one. Maybe Ed can follow on for this from Can You See KC. Can you talk about IBM's VDI offering that will assist with BYOD policies?
That's a good question. Yeah, we hadn't really prepped to talk about VDI or virtual desktop imaging, but we do have an offering in that space, and it's built on a Linux kind of an environment where, and that's a really good mobile offering as well. And I think it's where the mobile devices, kind of to your earlier question, will go eventually, is that IT organizations will get to build a mobile image, much like we're used to building a desktop image, that can be deployed and managed centrally, so that the user has this complete self-contained workspace on their device that doesn't interfere and doesn't cross in any way into their personal data at all. So our VDI offering is primarily around desktops today, but it's a definite logical evolution as the devices become capable of supporting virtualization to do the same there.
Okay. Yeah. One more, Elise. Let's let me
Sure thing.
put you on the spot.
So here's a good one. This is sort of changing gears a little bit. You talked a little bit about the sort of complexities with all the different kinds of devices that are out there. So this one from BW Hall. What's the best way to test across the myriad of mobile devices and types out there? Any suggestions?
Test.
Yeah, I can.
Please.
Go in.
Oh.
Yeah, so if you're doing a hybrid approach, well, if you're doing native, Xcode already has a lot of built-in tests, and if you're doing Android, you have JUnit tests. But from a hybrid standpoint, it's a lot of JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and one of the test frameworks we're using right now is the Karma Test Runner. It allows you to create these test cases and actually run them each time you launch the app, and each time you save. So you want to come up with really robust test cases. Like I said, Karma Test Runner, AngularJS is one of the frameworks we're using, which has a lot of testing built in. So with the hybrid approach, you really want to test. We do a lot of device testing as well. I mean, you can't really substitute real device testing.
Right.
Simulators will work to a certain point, but you really want to test more on the devices.
Okay.
Malcolm, have you found a way to test reliably on a desktop, a tablet, and a mobile screen, a phone screen, so that you can get a user experience that works on all three?
Well, with the hybrid approach, we've actually encoded for the code to actually determine what size screen we're on. So we do a lot of simulator testing, but like I said, you can't really substitute device testing.
There's some emerging technology there. One of our acquisitions last year was a company called T-Leaf, and actually just last week they became a formal IBM company, and now there's an IBM branded product called T-Leaf, and they have a mobile analytics module that will go and look at user behavior on the device and record the actual, did the user pinch, or did they use the roller, or down into the very detailed level of what the user interaction is, so the developer can get some information about how to make the experience less frustrating, or maybe put more positively how they can optimize the user experience in design. So we have that tool, and then the other tool in this space around test is Rational's Test Workbench. It's kind of in the same space that you were describing. So we've got lots of components here, and what we're trying to do around the Worklight platform that Malcolm mentioned earlier is integrate all those technologies, so that if you're a developer, that you can work with those technologies to have them directly in your toolkit as you're building the app.
And along with those analytics, you can actually see what device what device is mostly being used, and when they do crash, you'll see what platforms crashing the most. So those analytics are really useful when testing.
At the end of the live stream, we're gonna actually share contact information. These guys are going to be inside the community as green guys, so feel free to reach out to them for additional questions. If you excuse me, want to drill down further into what they're talking about, please you should definitely contact them. Let's talk about readiness for a moment, and then we'll get to some more questions. Should there be a choice list of supported devices from a mobile readiness standpoint? We've talked a lot about network readiness with Spiceworks, Spiceheads for some time. What about adding more and more mobility units into an infrastructure? Does there need to be a ready list? What about whitelisting and blacklisting? I think that's maybe a question I'd point to you, Malcolm.
Yeah, well, definitely I would really have a choice list of what we support. Hey, we don't support the Razr phone.
Okay.
We support Android 2.3.3
and
above. So I would definitely have a
minimum standards on OSs and such.
Especially minimum standards. And as far as whitelisting and blacklisting, I think blacklisting makes more sense.
Okay.
Because you can weed out those bad apps or those bad programs.
Yeah.
That you won't allow to be installed. You know. If we went with a whitelist and enabled all these, it can the list could grow astronomically. So I think blacklisting makes the most sense in that area.
Well, there's some things, and this may be a question for you, Ed, in terms of making network devices mobile devices work better in a network that you have to do to almost make your network ready, because that's a lot more bandwidth. And we deal with that here at Spiceworks.
Yeah, network readiness is a major factor when thinking about mobility, also secure access. So a lot of the devices have built-in VPN capability, but it's renowned for being a battery suck. So the approach we've taken is to build VPN tunneling capability that's clientless, that just sort of runs in the background on the device and on an app-by-app basis. So for email to tunnel back into your environment without the user having to flip the VPN button on their device or run it all the time. So I think that there's there's not just a set of devices that you need to think about, but there's also a set of apps that you need to think about. How are you going to deliver them? How are you going to make sure that experience is going to bridge into your firewall and be something that is manageable from both the end user's perspective as well as from the IT perspective.
And also configuring your network bandwidth more flexibly, particularly if you're in a situation where you may have people gathering in one place. I mean, the most extreme example would be a sporting event, right, where you have to be able to support suddenly 15,000 people are online, and then 2 hours later they're gone. And you don't want to provision for maximum capacity, but you need flexible provisioning.
Okay.
And to extend on that, when you're developing with a mobile-first framework, you really want to fine-tune your code to not make those service calls or the unnecessary queries that will kind of take some of the stress off the network. So that's one of the things that's big with us, ClearBlade.
Well, I think as we're here in Austin, Texas, and with South by Southwest and the Austin City Limits Music Festival, the mobile bandwidth for all those folks, as Paul mentioned, in terms of a sporting event or some large event where large numbers of people, that's important to us, certainly, when it comes down to being a hometown here in Austin. Let's talk about the mobile horizon. Let's talk about the mobile horizon for a moment in terms of what is IBM doing, what's on the cusp, what's coming up that you can talk to, maybe shine a little light on, but not too much.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things. One, I sort of alluded to it earlier. I think it is the machine-to-machine or sort of sensor-driven space. There are now technologies, you'll see them come up in retail or in government, where down to sensors that can be installed on a physical person, like on a name badge or something like that. Not like RFID, but actually using Bluetooth to communicate with devices and find triangulation, whatever. Indoor location is going to become really important as a result of that. So not just that I happen to be in your store, but that while I'm in the store, I'm in the department that sells jewelry, and I get an alert on my phone for, hey, you looked at this on our website 3 days ago, here's a coupon for 10% off if you want to buy it right now.
Wow.
I think that'll get pretty impressive, and then it'll get to the point where the machines are communicating with each other probably without human intervention. We have a reference story from the city of Eindhoven, in the Netherlands where they deployed sensors into cars. Normally when you hear a car, connected car thing, you think about GPS or traffic kinds of things. What they did is they actually are sensing road conditions. So this traffic light is out, so the pattern of people going through that intersection isn't the normal flow. Or there's a lot of people swerving out of a lane at a particular place in the roadway. There must be a pothole there. So they're actually deploying crews to fix problems in their physical infrastructure before people call about these particular problems. So I think that machine sensing thing is going to be an area that'll explode, and we're going to have more to do in that space. The other thing the labs are working a lot on is a sort of phase 2 of augmented reality. It was really cool when Android devices came out. People were like, "Oh, I can point over there and see there's a restaurant." Right? So what if you could apply that, to an experience you're having in a showroom? Let's go back to that earlier discussion at Best Buy or whatever, that I'm looking at things on the shelf and all of a sudden I've got better information about why I should buy this right now and why it's the best choice for me without having to do anything, without scanning barcodes, without whatever, and that the retailer is actually actively involved in that offering process. I think that sort of next phase of augmented reality will be pretty interesting.
Cool.
I don't think anyone's knocked augmented reality yet. They haven't really come up with the interface that works, but it's a fantastic idea. I love Ed's example of traffic, and what Google is doing in that area is they're really trying to build out a traffic monitoring system that takes advantage of the fact that all devices are location aware and are broadcasting location information all the time. So you can actually detect traffic flows and route traffic around blockages, which could have huge productivity effects for globally, global productivity impact. And it's funny again, the unintended consequences of mobility. We tried to figure out traffic problems by embedding sensors in roads for years, and it turns out the answer is embedding sensors in people.
Exactly.
True.
Exactly. Not scary at all. All right. Well, let me jump back to Elise. I think I want to make sure I get to your questions because we've got less than 20 minutes of time left, and make sure that we can cover all. So, Elise.
Sure. This one just came in from Saver. Maybe a little French speaking
Everywhere.
action going on there. I don't know. Do you know if there are any plans from IBM to incorporate mobile UI testing into the existing QA products, like RFT?
Yes. So, there are through our. So we talked about this a little bit earlier through the Rational Test Workbench tools and the T-Leaf analytics components. The whole life cycle of everything build, test, manage, run, deploy, the whole complete application development life cycle is part of what's going on in the IBM Worklight environment. And Worklight is not just the container for design, which we give away, but also the container for deploy and then for corporate app store model. There's a lot of different components to it. So incorporating the different parts of our portfolio into this overall mobile first story is what we're embarking on right now. And so there'll be more this quarter and beyond where new versions of Worklight will be the complete set of capabilities that a developer needs.
Very good. Very good. What else we got, Elise? I think we've got a couple more queued up.
All right, we've got this one that came in earlier from GOCTD1. Can you discuss video conferencing? BYOD.
That's not limited bandwidth at all. What thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, we've deployed e-meeting solutions that that we sell as commercial offerings with video or audio as optional. We don't really expect people to be sort of living that way today, but where there's bandwidth, they'll want to incorporate it, and I think that will evolve very, very quickly. Beyond sort of the Skype chat, Google Hangout thing that we're all used to as a metaphor. Clearly on the devices, FaceTime and Skype and the like have provided person-to-person communication, but the broadcast mechanism, like we're doing here, still sort of harder to completely deliver that into
large
the
groups
mobile experience
and
at scale. Yes. So I think we'll get there. I mean, I think that the technology on the mobile devices is there now. Processor speeds have come up. We think it's an important place where our unified communications will evolve to.
I can see a time when we're all carrying not only our mobile devices or whatever it is, or tablet, but having to keep a little whatever it is, some sort of platform to hold it up so that we can do meetings, multiple meetings with folks that are remote, being commonplace. So, let me jump into sort of social engagement and kind of what social is bringing into the picture. I would ask the questions of how has mobility changed the dynamic, and maybe we've spoken to this a number of ways throughout this conversation, but when IT pros are out there looking at what social is doing, and we spoke a little bit about ratings and reviews, and maybe we can expand on that, but in terms of participation by their users, by their end users, and what IT pros can do to engage better socially via mobile platforms. And you guys have some thoughts there, maybe you do, Paul?
Well, I think that there's the always-on phenomenon. You know, we've seen a big shift over the last just couple of years with companies supporting their customers increasingly through Twitter and Facebook. Yeah. And the expectations for response times on the part of customers are going down and down. So now it's considered, 1 hour is becoming the accepted norm for when you need to respond to a customer via social media. So I think it is demanding that all companies have more responsive customer service mechanisms, but also have the technology in place so that you are 24/7 tapping into what customers are saying. Mm-hmm. And the IT organization needs to outfit its frontline people with the technology so that they can respond to an alert or a problem really at any time of the day.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that reminds me, United Airlines, I'm still waiting for you to respond to my tweet from last week. I know you're probably not on the line, although you should be. Talking about futures, the future of devices and mobile apps, so sort of two separate areas. Let's talk about devices in terms of what do you think's coming forward? I mean, we talked about, well, who knows what's 15 or 5 or 10 years from now, but any thoughts from any gentleman on what devices we're going to see? Is this going to be obsolete in 2 to 3 years?
I was walking through a casino in Las Vegas a couple of months ago.
Always good.
And always good. And I'm thinking about Google Glass, this prototype that embeds essentially the interface in your glasses. And I thought, oh my God, what are these casinos going to do when people are walking in with that kind of technology on them?
Wow.
But I think the mobile device itself is, as I said earlier, it's a clunky way to access information. But I like in the app scenario right now. I mean, apps were a huge breakthrough. They've changed things, the way we consume technology fundamentally. But apps themselves are very clunky. They don't integrate well with each other. You have to manage them individually. They crash. They do this and that. And I think we're in the apps world around where 1981 was in the PC world, and there's going to be some unifying. There'll be technologies to come across and unify all this stuff and make it much more seamless to move between apps. I wonder, Malcolm, that has to be some frustration for you, right? That you have all these individual apps that don't play nicely with each other.
Right, and that's why I'm still an advocate for the hybrid approach, because there are so many devices and there are so many different code bases. But as far as the future, I mean, you have the Google glasses, which have to pair with your device to get the connection. So I do think that's going to be a new wave of technology as far as tablets. Mm-hmm. I think that's going to go away soon too. I mean, they're getting heavier, they're getting bigger screens.
Truly.
People want to be able to move fast. They want a lot of information. And the glasses are delivering that right now. I know there's a smart watch coming out soon, so a lot of different things are on the horizon.
Good.
Well,
Good.